So I'm currently logged in to manage as myself. The first thing that you're going to notice, it has a familiar interface, very similar to Pdm or say Windows Explorer. This is what we call your home dashboard. This dashboard, like everything in Manage, can be configured and customized to what the user or what the organization needs. The thing that I like to personally look at first is my task list. Now there's a few ways to look at this. You can look at this globally, which is my default dashboard, or we can drill into actually specific tasks that have been assigned to me. Now when I generally do that, I like to take a look at the due dates. Now right off the bat, I can sort all tasks that have been assigned to me. Now some of these tasks might be things you're familiar with, like producing 3D models. But there's a lot of other things that I need to do outside of using SOLIDWORKS. For example, creating bills of materials, which is our shipping BOM, developing the instruction manual, doing analysis work on key components. Maybe there are some risks that we need to mitigate. For example, looking at the laser cutting machine, it looks like it's having some issues. All these tasks are tasks that fall in my bucket of work to do. The first thing I notice is I see that this task actually appears to be 2 days late. So let's take a look at that and drill into what this task is related to and the rest of the general interface that a user is going to be seeing. First thing is it's very similar to Pdm. By simply clicking on anything, you're going to get some supplementary information, usually down here at the bottom of the screen. I can see that this task is 2 days late. It's got about 8 hours that are assigned to me, and I haven't even started it yet. This task is associated with this project. This project is project 6, and it looks like it's some sort of laser guide for a miter saw. Now let's drill into this. By using a simple right click, I can navigate in and out of my information. When I navigate to it, I can see project 6, and I'm going to see all of the information that corresponds to this project. Now, let's understand what this information is. The first is your actual project information for this project. Now, this is 100% customizable. For me, this captures my project number, the project description, what kind of project type. In this case, we're defining this as new product introduction, so it's something that we're designing from scratch. We can see the process that's controlling it. It's under the development, and any other information that the sales team or project manager or quoting team included, including estimated hours, capital costs, maybe the due date or when we started or completed this project. Now let's look at the rest of these tabs. The next thing we're going to look at is what we call related files. So what related files is sometimes we have supplementary information that doesn't exist inside Pdm or inside our vault. This gives us a place to store this. For all of our projects, it needs to have a checklist, which makes sure that we've done all the things that our marketing team and our sales team is providing to actually do this project. So in this case, we call that our project checklist, and that just gets simply stored inside this project, giving everybody access to it in one simple interface. Now, probably one of my favorite things and what most of my customers are leveraging is what we call a project plan. This project plan actually helps us outline the flow of the data, right, and the flow of the information, not just the files, across all stages of the organization. In this project, we can see that we have time allocated for the design, for technical publications, manufacturing, physical testing, and then finally our review and wrap-up meeting. Now, these items are time dependent on the previous item. So as we log our work and as we adjust our process plan, this is going to automatically adjust for the downstream activities. The next thing we'll take a look at is what we call the to-do list or our task list. This gives us a global look at all the tasks that need to be accomplished and need to be completed for this project to actually come to fruition. The bill of material. A lot of you guys might be familiar with that term, bill of material, and most of you are probably familiar with an engineering BOM, which is generally the bill of material that's coming out of SOLIDWORKS. But a lot of the time we have what we call a manufacturing BOM or a shipping BOM or a bill of lading, and that is outside of things that we model up or things that we engineer. This gives us a project bill of material that we can actually control, not just our CAD document, but we can actually feed in other supplementary items that don't correspond to a model or correspond to a drawing. Our project deliverables goes hand in hand with the different stages of the planning phase. So as we complete a different stage, generally there's deliverables that come out of that stage. And this is where we capture that. And we'll see that a little bit later. And then these last two items are what we call special objects. Special objects are things that you might care about that we don't have already in the system. In this case, this gives us a place and a placeholder to address any kind of project issues that we might come into, or preemptively assign what we call risk management, which are things that we know could hic us up or maybe be a roadblock in this project, and we want to identify them so that way they're at the forefront of our mind and that way we can keep an eye on them. This is your general interface for your user as they're navigating this project list. Now, before we move on, I want to call out a few more things inside the interface. Over here, you'll see that I actually have 4 kinds of projects. I have what we call engineering to order or manufacture to order projects. I have new product development, and then I have this project placeholder called improvements. Each one of these types of projects has different requirements and follows a different workflow and a different process flow. So this is actually giving Acme Audio that flexibility to make sure that they're capturing and organizing in the way that they actually need for the tasks that are at hand. Now, when we are dealing with this, and in this case, we're going to talk about new product, right? New product development. We can actually look at this in a number of ways. The first you just saw, which is your general interface, but we can dive down a little bit deeper. For example, maybe I know that these 6 projects right here are projects that are at the top of the forefront. I need to look at them, and I need to have a better idea of how to get my timing and my resources in line. So one way to do that is to leverage what we call the project planning tool. And like most tools in SOLIDWORKS Manage, it's going to be a simple right mouse button click. When I right mouse button click on the project plan, it takes all those projects and it puts them in a nice, clean, easy to see Gantt chart. Now this Gantt chart can be organized by a lot of different ways. In this example, I'm going to organize this by year, and let's take a look and see what kind of timing we have for the year that we're currently in, 2021. Now, the benefit of this is as we drill down into each one of these projects, it's actually now overlaying them and showing us the resources that are involved and responsible for the different items in these project plans. Now I can see right off the bat, I'm fixing to create a brand new project, and Roland and Jeremy and Mike and Travis appear to have a lot already on their plate that's overlapping. So let's take a look at developing a brand new project to initiate a new product and make sure we put this out in the future so that way we can actually achieve our goal of when we want this project to be completed. We'll go ahead and get out of our project planning view, and we're going to come back to our main interface, and let's initiate a new product introduction process. To do that, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to find my NPI, or new product introduction process, and we'll simply right click and choose new. Now, when we do this, there is some required information that we must put into the system in order for the project to hit that first phase, or what a lot of people call a gate. Now, all this information is supplementary information that is generally going to be coming from the customer, project manager, or maybe salesperson who is heading this project up. In this case, we're going to be developing a new sun tracker system for 2022 model pontoons. This is going to start off it's a new concept, so it's going to start off in a new concept phase. The target price for this unit is going to be $650, and we'd like to see a first year sales goal of 1,000 units. We're going to tell the system that this is going to end up being a project, so yes, we want to create a project, and the project type is going to be a standard project. I'll talk more about that here in a little bit when we get into the planning phase. We need to assign different department leads who are going to essentially inherit the task for those departments. In this case, we'll start off with me as the project manager. I will also be the project lead. The engineering lead for this project is going to be my coworker Travis. And the manufacturing lead is going to be my other coworker, Brian. Now, these last two inputs are going to control how this process plan is actually laid out. So this is going to be a competitive market project, and we want to make sure that we're attaching all the required documents. Now, everything that you see right here is 100% customizable. So if you say, Roland, we need to add or remove, or we don't do those types of things, that's perfectly fine. This is just capturing the information that Acme Audio needs for the project. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and save that, and it's going to initiate that original process plan. Now, a few things happen right now. The first thing that happened is a first task actually automatically got generated. So for every project that Acme Audio does, they have to have this initial concept sheet. This concept sheet is where we sit down with the customer who's requesting the unit, or we might be sitting down with somebody from our distribution group, or maybe the sales group that's outlining the specific things that they want to see in this product. On top of that, we're going to see what we call our history map. Now, what this history map is doing is this is outlining our roadmap to how this project is going to get completed. Now, a lot of times people call these phases or gates that have to happen. Now, this isn't just involving creating files, creating SOLIDWORKS models, or creating SOLIDWORKS drawings. This is encompassing everything that has to happen, so that way we can hit full production for this unit and hopefully sell a whole bunch of them and make a bunch of money in it. For Acme, there's actually 6 things that happen. The first thing is our planning and our requirements gathering. This is our market analysis, our competitor assessment, our product planning that's happening between our project manager and our sales team, and sometimes with the actual customer that's requesting the unit. Once we have all that information and we deem this being a project that we're going to go ahead and take on, we're going to pass that into our first gate, which is our concept development phase. This is where our technical teams are getting our technical requirements. We might be collecting suppliers and seeing how we're going to allocate, whether we're going to be making the product in-house or outsourcing, and developing our cost for this actual unit. Until all of these actions happen, we actually don't start producing models. These are things that happen outside of our engineering team. Once this first gate has been accomplished, we're going to navigate over into our product design phase. And this is where we're going to start building actual parts, prototypes, doing the modeling, doing the engineering, and doing the testing of this product. Once we've signed off on the prototype phase and the product design phase, we then get ready for what we call pre-production phase. The pre-production is where we're going to ramp up into full production manufacturing and assembly. Once we've gone through our pre-production phase and we've passed all of our first article and PPAP inspections and vetted out the process that we're going to be using to mass manufacture this, then we go into full production. And then finally, we've finished our project. Now, for new products, all of these phases have to happen. But in some cases, we have an express route. Now, what is Acme using with this express route? Well, for them, a lot of the times, they all have an existing unit that they're going to tweak just a little bit and now offer it as a new unit to the customer. So in those circumstances, they don't have to go through these first 3 phases. We call that an express project, which goes straight into pre-production and prepares us for that pre-production phase of getting all the tooling and getting our full production information ready to go. So this is actually getting all of our organization on board and assigning them tasks as we progress through this project. Now, let's go ahead and assume that this project is ready to go. So the first thing we have to do is we have to mark our task as complete, so that way we can hit that next phase. To do that, I'm going to simply right-click on this task. I'm actually one of the task owners and persons responsible for doing this, and we're going to go ahead and assume that we have this completed. So we'll mark that as complete, and then we'll hit save. Once I've done that, I'm now ready to go into phase 1 of the project. So we have completed our first phase of this project, and we'll go ahead and send this to the next stage, so that way the rest of our team can now get their work assigned to them. Now that I have that, if we're back here at our main interface, we can see all that information directly from our dashboard right here. We can see our history, we can see our completed task, And the next thing I want to show you is the actual project that got created off of this process. That project is linked directly to this process, and essentially I'm using just an automatic numbering scheme to number all my projects and processes. Let's navigate to that and go ahead and start preparing this for the next phase in our project. Now, once I navigate to this, you're going to see again the same interface we were just looking at when we started this demonstration. Now, what is different is that I have not fully completed all of the other supplementary information to get this project ready for the next phase. So let's go ahead and do that now. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to simply open up my project. I'm going to take ownership of it, so that way I can add some supplementary information in here. And we're going to go ahead and start filling out all of our market research and all of the technical things that we know about this project right now. The first thing is in order to get a good idea of how much resources we need, we're going to estimate that this project is going to take us about 300 hours. We need to give it a capital budget. So for the new tooling, we're going to say right now we're estimating about $45,000 in new tooling. We're going to give it a due date. We'd really like to see this project ready for the summer. So we'll say that the due date is going to be the 1st of May. We're starting on this project. We know that we have some projects already in the pipeline, so we're actually going to start this project at the first part of April. And then we'll go ahead and hit save. Now, all this information is giving everybody in my organization access to now the same info. Prior to Manage, the way that Acme Audio was doing this was a combination of Excel sheets and emails and production meetings. Now, we know we're not going to get rid of production meetings, but now we're giving everybody access to the same information. The next thing we want to do is we want to actually lay out this process plan for this project. So we're going to go into that planning phase. And this is where all the tasks are going to get assigned and the deliverables will start getting created. Now, you can always come in here and add a plan one item at a time. But what we're actually going to leverage is we're going to leverage a template. Now, Acme Audio does a lot of different projects. And so for each different project type that they do, whether it's a new product introduction or capital improvement project, or maybe it's just an idea that they came up with their own, they already have a pre-planned phase for those types of activities. In this example, I'm going to use the project template for new product introduction. So I'm going to choose my template. I'm going to choose the start date of this project. So again, we're going to start this at the first part of March. And then we'll go ahead and hit apply. Once I apply this, it is now building my Gantt chart and building my process flow for my organization. What happens is for each phase of this design of this project, we are now getting a timeline. And along with that timeline, there are some default tasks that we know had to happen for every project. Let's start off with the design phase. If I click on the design phase, we've allocated a little over 3 weeks, about 88 hours of design time to accomplish this. Now, there's 3 tasks that need to happen. And we know that for every new product, these 3 tasks always have to happen. And this is our starting point for managing our resources. Those 3D tasks are to produce 3D models, generate the shipping bill of material, and do all the FEA and analysis work on all key components. Now we're going to come back to these tasks and show you how to add new ones and show how to actually complete some of these. But before we do that, in this example, we actually need to do a little tweaking to our project plan. So SOLIDWORKS Manage provides you good flexibility on tweaking the plan as you go. In this case, this unit is not going to be something that we install. So we're going to change our installation from our installation to review and testing. We also need to add another portion in the project. So we're going to come up here and hit add. It's going to add me a new bar right here for my project. And this is going to be our wrap up and final review. Now this isn't a main stage in the project. This is actually a sub-stage. So we have flexibility to change and tweak our project plan. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and bump this up. And I'm going to indent this so that way this isn't actually an item that's going to happen in our review and testing. Now what's neat about this is as it develops this Gantt chart, It's actually applying our resources that are responsible for each phase of our project plan, and it's calculating any kind of critical path. In this case, our critical path is what that means to you is that before the next phase can take place, the previous phase needs to be completed. The benefit of this is, say we do need to push this out, it's going to auto adjust our process plan and push out the supplementary items that are after essentially the item that's running a little bit behind schedule. So this process plan is totally flexible and configurable to what Acme Audio needed. Now let's go back over here into the design phase. In this unit, we actually need one more task that we're missing. And in this example, we need to develop a new PC board and a new electrical harness for this unit. We currently don't have something that we can leverage. So we're going to right click and we're going to say new task. We're going to give this task a name. We're going to say develop new board and harness. Now we want to assign this. I'm definitely not the electrical engineer, so we want to assign this to somebody more appropriate. In this case, I'm going to remove myself as the owner, and we're going to assign this to one of our electrical engineers, Jeremy Browning. I can also include any notes or any supplementary information that he might need, and I can also tell him when I want this task to be completed by. In this example, we're going to say this is good, and we're going to go ahead and save and close that. Once I do, we see a new item in our project plan assigned to Mr. Browning with our original start date and our due date of March 2nd. Now, another way to look at tasks is to leverage what we call the task board. And now when we're looking at the task board, this is probably one of my favorite ways to organize my project. The first thing I like to do is I like to look at this by stage, right? So this gives me visibility of what's going on at what stage. Now I can see in my design phase, here's the 4 tasks. Now I notice on my tech pubs, I don't currently have anybody assigned to actually create our instruction manuals. So let's go ahead and add that as a task. We're going to say create interactive instruction manual for website. We're going to assign this to somebody more appropriate, not myself. This example, we're going to go ahead and give this to Mr. Mike. And then we're going to save and close it. Now, the benefit of this task board is this gives you, one, a global view of all the tasks and at what stage they need to be completed. But along with that, it lets you manipulate this task board. So in this case, this actually needs to happen at in the technical publication outline. Now, the next way that I like to look at this is by priority. So as I generate tasks, they're not all equal. Some tasks and some things need to happen before others, and some end up being very urgent. So in this case, our bill of materials creation, that's really a high priority action. Our create training plan, that's something that can happen a little bit later on in the project. That's going to be a low priority action item. Creating interactive instruction for website, although it's something we definitely need to do, that's really a low priority item. Now, what is one of our high priority items that might need to happen almost immediately? Well, developing the new board and the harness is going to control a lot of our design information for the housing and for our speaker system. So that actually needs to happen almost immediately. So I'm going to go ahead and classify that as urgent. Now, once I close out of this task board, as I'm reorganizing and making sure that everybody has the things that they need to be doing, it's actually managing this in the background and setting up all of our notifications for our system. You'll notice now that this task called Develop New Board and Harness has been assigned to red, and Mr. Browning, when he logs in, is going to be getting a notification. What I like to do now is I'm going to log out of the system as myself, and I'm going to go ahead and log into the system as Jeremy, and let's see what's going to happen. So I've instigated another session of Manage, and I'm going to go ahead and log in as Mr. Browning. Now when I do, almost immediately we're going to be getting some very valuable information. And that information is hey, you have urgent tasks that are in your inbox. This was a huge benefit for Acme Audio because there was really no true way to make sure things were getting prioritized correctly without having some sort of central database to capture all this. When Mr. Browning logs in, he's going to see that same user interface. He's going to see his task here at the right. It's highlighted in red, very visual tracking. And he can go ahead and navigate over here to the project that task is associated with. Now, unbeknownst to us, Mr. Browning has actually already developed the circuit board and the harness for this electrical. So all what he really needs to do is add it into this project as a deliverable and go ahead and mark the task as complete. So the first thing he does is he checks this out. He's going to come over here to our process plan called design. He's going to go to project deliverables and he's going to add this in as a deliverable. Now when he does, I want to point out something here. Manage has the ability to actually connect to other systems and other database. In this case, he's actually connected to his PDM vault. And the PDM vault, he's going to filter this out by assemblies and find the actual board that he's already designed in preparation for this project. Once he finds that board, he's going to go ahead and add this in, making sure that he is logged into PDM as himself. And he'll close this down. Now, what is the benefit of this? The benefit of this is the fact that this is now a project deliverable that is looking at our PDM vault and is now tied to this project. Since he has this done, he's going to mark this task as complete, save his work, and move on to the next thing in the system. Now, we'll close down our session as Mr. Jeremy Browning. We'll come back over here into my original interface, and let's go ahead and take a look at this project. When I go look at my process plan, I can tell Manage to go ahead and update all of my information. Now, what you're going to see is since Mr. Browning finished his project and finished his task and updated the PC board, it's going to give us a real-time look now as the project manager of those tasks that he's completed. We can see that this task for the board is marked at 100%. And if we come up here to our design phase, we can see that our Gantt chart is now updated in real time. It's now 10% complete because we have a portion of this design phase ready to go. Now, as being the owner of this, how can I go ahead and mark these things as complete also? Well, you have a few different ways to mark a task complete. One is if you know it's complete, by simply right-clicking at it, we can choose Mark as Complete. In this case, I'm not quite done with this task, but I want to go ahead and let everybody in the organization know that I've been working on it and I'm almost there. So I'm going to log some time into this project. When I do that, it's going to go ahead and update that status bar. Now, as different users and as different people and different parts of our organization are updating their task and updating their project deliverables, we'll see our Gantt chart update in real time. So now I can see that we're 75% done with that design phase. Now, the last few things that I want to show you in this project as we wrap this up is what we call project issues and risk management. These are essentially special objects that allow us to identify things, right? Identify either an issue or a risk that we can keep our eye on as we navigate through the system. To do this, we're going to go ahead and hit New, and we're going to create a new issue. The issue we've identified is we are short on material from vendor, need more plastic resources. Now, like anything else, this is creating an object in our system. We can assign this to a responsible person. For example, maybe somebody in our management team. We can assign a task to this. That task might be find new vendor to source material out. And we can attach any related files. This might be the actual material sheet for the material that we're missing. In a nutshell, this could be any kind of issue that you've come across in the phases of these projects. The benefit of this is that now we have a one-stop shop where all these issues are identified. Currently, what Acme Audio was doing is they had production meetings every day, which is all fine and dandy, but everybody would bring in what their issue were, and then when everybody left or went back to their own little battle stations, there was no way to see what was happening along with these issues. On top of that, we can identify things that might be risk along the life cycle of this project. So the benefit of a risk is this gives the ability to actually classify the risk as higher or lower. So one risk that we see is our laser machine has been unreliable. We can give this a probability of failure, not very high, but it has happened. The impact of failure, though, is a very high value, meaning if it fails, this is really going to set our project back. Now, as we wrap up our demonstration, let's look at how we can actually take this and digest this in a more efficient manner. Obviously, there's a lot more things that need to happen in this project to finish it out, but I don't want to eat up all of our time on just working on these projects. Many more tasks need to be accomplished, and many more things need to happen in order for that to hit that final completed phase in our process flow. But what I'd really like to do is take a look at how can we digest all this information. So the first thing that we're going to look at is, from an end user standpoint, we can identify any of our dashboards and customize these to things that we need. For example, I have a quick dashboard that's going to show me any project issues. So I can come in here, and as I go through my day, I can make sure that there's nothing that's been assigned to me. From a management perspective, we can identify things that are high risk values. So right here, I can filter out any risk that is higher than, say, a value of 10. It's going to go ahead and outline that in red and put it at the top of my list. I can see my motor supplier's backlog, motor deliveries need to be delayed. This could instigate me to update my project plan or maybe find a new motor vendor. Now, one of my favorite ways to digest information is to leverage what we call reports. Now, you can have a report on a project, you can have a report on a process, you can have a report on pretty much anything. And all of our reports are totally and 100% customizable and configurable. The way that we access a report is by simply right-clicking on an object and telling the system to go ahead and run the report. In this is a way that we can share this information with some of our upper-level CEO management team. This gives us an idea and gives us a printout that we can then distribute and disseminate accordingly. This gives us the status of all of our project stages, current tasks, the status of those tasks, and the respective due date. Along with that, in our project deliverables, this is giving us the deliverables for that project, along with our estimated cost, start date, and due date. Now, another way to digest information is to leverage what we call a dashboard. Now, the dashboards are the most common way that all users are getting in and getting their information of what they need to be doing or what the status of the unit might be like. Now, up here in our homepage, we have our dashboard. We have a few different dashboards. The first one that I generally look at the most is our projects dashboard. As a project manager, this gives me an idea of what's going on in my organization, and it gives me a real-time view of where we at and across all of our projects. Now, the benefit of this isn't just a static dashboard. This is actually automatically refreshing, and it's giving me the ability to interact with this dashboard. For example, I'm most concerned with things that are in progress or currently not yet started. As I interact with this, you're going to see that this dashboard is actually updating. I want to look at things that are specifically assigned to me, and I want to sort these tasks out across all these projects. This is giving me a real-time look across anything that I've currently started or not started, and that I am the project manager for. Now, one of the dashboards that I use very frequently is this Pdm Content. This dashboard is actually grabbing information that is not even inside SOLIDWORKS Manage. This is grabbing information outside of Manage that is actually in our vault, and it's organizing it across the different stages of the workflow and the different stages of the projects. Now, the last dashboard we're going to look at is our NPI dashboard. This is a dashboard that is organizing our introduction of new products or new designs into our organization. This gives me a nice visual of the new product and product revenue for the year. I use this most when I'm going into my management meetings and giving an overview of what we have in store for the next year and years to come. Now, that wraps up the demonstration of our project management for Acme Audio. So let's wrap up today's session, and then we'll kick it back over to our moderator and maybe have a little Q&A. Now, Acme Audio, what did we just look at? What are they doing? They're using SOLIDWORKS Manage to do all project management and stay ahead of the schedule. Now, what you saw today is just the tip of the iceberg. In a short webinar session like this is to educate you on the product, on the solution, and give you a real-life example of how that solution looks. If you find yourself saying, hey, I do something very similar, hey, we don't do the exact thing, but we do something that looks like that, what I would encourage you to do is to reach out to us and let's set up a deeper look into your process and maybe do an audit or a walkthrough of what you're currently doing in your organization. Now, this is just the beginning of this 6-part series. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you sign up for session 2, where we're going to be looking at our PCB and our hardware schematic design. Now, if you're telling yourself, hey, Roland, I'm not an electrical engineer, that's okay. You still want to come in, because what we're going to look at is we're going to pick up where we left off in our task of developing these two things, but we also want to look at the deliverable and how our electrical team is working with our mechanical team and then the output that they give to the rest of our organization.